How Successful People Think, by John C. Maxwell. Introduction. There's a chilling quote from Adolf Hitler that has always stuck with me. He once boasted, "What luck for rulers that men do not think." Think about that for a moment. The most monstrous figures in history don't fear armies or rebellions as much as they fear one simple thing: a person who thinks for themselves. Because a person who truly thinks can't be easily controlled, manipulated, or deceived. A person who knows how to do something might always have a job, but the person who understands why will always be their boss. For 40 years, the leadership expert John C. Maxwell studied the most successful people in the world. He looked at leaders, innovators, artists, and entrepreneurs from every walk of life. He found that they were all wildly different backgrounds, different industries, different personalities. But they all had one thing in common. Just one. It wasn't their education, their wealth, or their connections. It was how they thought. That's the great secret. The one thing that separates the successful from the unsuccessful is the quality of their thinking. And here's the best part, the part that should make you lean in a little closer. It's a skill that can be learned. In his powerfully simple book, How Successful People Think, which has guided millions of readers, Maxwell promises that if you can change your thinking, you can change your life. This isn't just a motivational slogan, it's a practical roadmap. So today, we're not just going to summarize a book. We're going to unlock that roadmap. By the end of our time together, you'll understand the invisible engine that drives success, and you'll have the keys to start building that engine for yourself. We're going to explore how to see the big picture when everyone else is staring at their feet, how to find solutions when everyone else sees a dead end, and how to build a life of meaning, not just a life of activity. This is your invitation to stop being a passenger in your own life and start being the architect of it. And it all begins with a simple, powerful choice: the choice to think. Book summary. Most of us float through life thinking that thinking is automatic, like breathing. It just happens. We have thoughts, of course. Thousands of them every day. But are we truly thinking? Or are we just reacting? Are we following well-worn mental paths that were paved for us by others? Maxwell argues that for most people, the answer is yes. We tend to follow what he calls popular thinking. It's the path of least resistance. It's the comfort of agreeing with the crowd, of doing things the way they've always been done. The problem with popular thinking is that it doesn't require you to think at all. You just follow the herd. But if you follow the herd, you'll end up in the same crowded, average pasture as everyone else. And mediocrity is a very high price to pay for comfort. Think about the high school students who were lined up to look at a planet through their physics teacher's telescope. One by one, they stepped up, squinted, and said they could see it, just as the teacher expected. But when the last student looked and said, "I can't see anything, it's all black," the teacher got angry. He grabbed the telescope himself, only to discover a simple truth: the lens cap was still on. 40 students before him had pretended to see something that wasn't there, just to fit in. They followed popular thinking, even when it meant lying to themselves. Breaking away from that is the first step. It's about having the courage to question the status quo, to ask, why? Why do we do it this way? Is there a better way? This isn't about being a rebel for the sake of it, it's about being an architect. You can't build something new if you're only willing to use the old blueprints. Once you've decided to step off the beaten path, the next shift is to zoom out. This is what Maxwell calls big picture thinking. Most people live their lives looking through a microscope. They're focused on the immediate task, the urgent email, the next deadline. They are so caught up in the details that they lose sight of the destination. Big picture thinkers, on the other hand, look through a telescope. They see the whole journey. They understand that the current challenge, Whether it's a tough class, a boring job, or a personal struggle, is just one season in a much longer story. It's the difference between laying bricks and building a cathedral. The bricklayer who only sees the brick in his hand gets tired and bored. But the bricklayer who sees the grand cathedral he's helping to build finds meaning and motivation in every single brick. He understands that the small things he does today are connected to something much bigger. This kind of thinking doesn't just happen. It's a choice. It's about intentionally learning new things, reading books outside your comfort zone, and talking to people who are different from you. It's about getting out of your own frame so you can see the entire painting. When you start to see the bigger picture, something magical happens. You begin to see possibilities where you once saw walls. This leads us to possibility thinking. This is the mindset that refuses to accept impossible as the final answer. George Lucas is a perfect example. When he was making the first Star Wars movie, the special effects he imagined simply didn't exist. The experts told him it couldn't be done. But Lucas wasn't an expert in limitations, he was an expert in possibilities. He refused to believe it was impossible. So, he went out and created his own special effects company, Industrial Light and Magic, to invent the technology needed to bring his vision to life. That company didn't just make his movie possible, it revolutionized the entire film industry. Possibility thinkers aren't naive optimists. They don't ignore problems. They just believe that for every problem, a solution exists. They ask, why not, when everyone else is saying, no way. They understand a profound truth: your belief system sets the ceiling for your potential. If you believe you can't, you won't. But if you believe you can, you've already won half the battle. This is the story of Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart. He once visited a competitor's store that was, by all accounts, terrible. It was dirty, disorganized, and empty of customers. His colleagues saw nothing but failure. But Sam Walton, a master possibility thinker, walked out with a notebook full of ideas. He said, "Did you see their pantyhose rack? It was the best I've ever seen. We need to find that manufacturer." He noticed their selection of ethnic cosmetics was 3 times larger than his. He saw possibilities in the middle of a disaster. That's the mindset. But a great mindset alone isn't enough. You can have the biggest dreams in the world, but without discipline, they'll remain just that, dreams. This brings us to the hard work of thinking. It starts with focused thinking. In our hyper-distracted world, focus is a superpower. Most people hop from task to task, email to notification, never giving any single idea the deep attention it deserves. Maxwell quotes the novelist Charles Dickens, of whom it was said, "He did each thing as if he did nothing else." That's the essence of focused thinking. It's about removing distractions and mental clutter so you can concentrate with absolute clarity. A good idea is like a seed. If you only water it for a minute before running to the next thing, it will never grow. But if you give it focused time and attention, that good idea can blossom into a great one. Dan Cathy, the president of Chick-fil-A, is so committed to this that he has what he calls a thinking schedule. He sets aside half a day every 2 weeks, a full day every month, and several full days every year, just to think. No meetings, no calls. Just him, a pen, and a piece of paper. He knows that the hectic pace of life will kill intentional thinking if he doesn't fight for it. So, where should you direct this powerful focus? On your strengths. On the 20% of activities that give you 80% of your results. You can't be great at everything. Success comes from being excellent at a few things. Focused thinking is how you get there. Once you're focused, you need a plan. This is strategic thinking. It's the bridge that connects where you are today to where you want to be tomorrow. Most people plan their vacations with more care than they plan their lives. A strategic thinker, however, is always thinking several steps ahead. Strategic thinking breaks down big, complex goals into small, manageable steps. It asks the right questions. What are we trying to accomplish? Why is it important? Who needs to be involved? What resources do we have? It simplifies the difficult. As Henry Ford said, nothing is particularly hard if you divide it into small jobs. But even the best strategy can fail if it's not grounded in reality. This is where realistic thinking comes in. This was a tough one for Maxwell to learn. As a natural optimist, he used to think that being realistic was negative. But he came to understand that realistic thinking isn't about expecting the worst, it's about being prepared for it. It's the foundation upon which all great plans are built. Hope is not a strategy. A realistic thinker looks at a plan and asks, what could go wrong? Not to kill the idea, but to strengthen it. They plan for the worst-case scenario. This doesn't create fear, it creates confidence. When you've thought through the worst that can happen and you have a plan for it, you're no longer afraid of it. You're secure. Disappointment is simply the gap between expectation and reality. Realistic thinking closes that gap. So we've shifted our mindset, and we've built a disciplined process. Now, where do the breakthrough ideas come from? This is the realm of creative thinking. Many people believe that creativity is a gift you're either born with or you're not. Maxwell completely disagrees. He says creativity isn't about being original, it's about connecting the unconnected. It's about taking existing ideas and combining them in a new way. Even the greatest artists, like Leonardo da Vinci, learned from their masters and built upon the ideas of others. Creative thinkers value ideas. They are constantly collecting them from books, conversations, and experiences. Then, they play with them. They ask what if. They embrace ambiguity and aren't afraid to look foolish. They know that creativity requires a willingness to fail. For every great idea, there are 100 bad ones. Creative people just don't let the bad ones stop them from searching. One of the biggest killers of creativity is the phrase, "I'm not a creative person." If you believe that, you've already closed the door. Another killer is the fear of failure. You can't discover a new world if you're afraid to lose sight of the shore. To be more creative, you have to get out of your box. Read a book on a subject you know nothing about. Talk to someone in a completely different field. Challenge your own assumptions. But great ideas don't just come from looking forward, they also come from looking back. This is the power of reflective thinking. Our society doesn't encourage reflection. We value action over everything. We finish one thing and immediately rush to the next. But reflection is what turns experience into wisdom. Mark Twain famously said that a cat that sits on a hot stove will never sit on a hot stove again. But it will also never sit on a cold one. The cat learned something, but it didn't gain wisdom. Reflective thinking is like a mental crock-pot. It allows your experiences to simmer until you can extract the real lessons. After any significant event, a success or a failure, a reflective thinker steps back and asks, what went right? What went wrong? What did I learn? How can I apply this in the future? This process gives you true perspective. It helps you see the patterns in your life. It increases your confidence because you're not just guessing anymore. You're learning from a growing library of personal experiences. Maxwell makes this a discipline. He regularly reviews his calendar and journal, not to see what's next, but to reflect on what has been. It's in these quiet moments of reflection that good experiences become valuable ones. Up to this point, much of our journey has been about individual thinking. But the greatest thinkers understand that they can't achieve their full potential alone. This leads to the final, and perhaps most powerful shift, thinking with others. This begins with shared thinking. The idea is simple: none of us is as smart as all of us. When you bring the right people together, a kind of magic happens. One person's idea sparks another, which is then refined by someone else, until you create something together that no one could have created alone. In our culture, especially in school, we're often taught to compete. We're graded on our individual performance. But in the real world, the biggest breakthroughs come from collaboration. Shared thinking is faster, more innovative, and stronger than solo thinking. It fills in your blind spots. You've had experiences others haven't, and they've had experiences you haven't. When you combine that wisdom, you get a much more mature and complete picture. The key is to get the right people around the table. People who are secure enough to celebrate another's idea, who want the best idea to win, not just their idea. When you create that environment of trust and cooperation, you unlock a level of thinking that is simply impossible to reach on your own. And this leads to the ultimate form of thinking, the one that provides the deepest satisfaction, unselfish thinking. So much of our world is focused on me, my success, my goals, my happiness. Unselfish thinking flips the script. It asks, how can I add value to others? It's about moving from getting to giving. This isn't just about being a nice person, it's a profound secret to a fulfilling life. As the saying goes, we cannot hold a torch to light another's path without brightening our own. When you focus on helping others succeed, you find that your own success follows in ways you could never have planned. Think about the firefighters on September 11th who ran into the burning towers. They weren't thinking about themselves. Their thoughts were entirely focused on others. That is unselfish thinking at its most heroic. But it doesn't have to be that dramatic. It can be as simple as mentoring a younger colleague, listening to a friend in need, or putting your family's needs before your own. Unselfish thinkers go into relationships looking to make sure the other person wins first. They understand that a win-win partnership is the only one that lasts. This kind of thinking doesn't just build a successful career, it builds a meaningful legacy. Finally, all these different ways of thinking must be aimed at a target. They need a North Star. This is bottom-line thinking. Now, bottom line usually makes us think of money and profits. And for a business, that's part of it. But Maxwell uses the term in a much broader sense. The bottom line is your ultimate purpose. It's the primary result you're trying to achieve. For Frances Hesselbein, when she took over the struggling Girl Scouts of America, the bottom line wasn't fundraising or membership numbers. She identified the true bottom line: to help a girl reach her highest potential. That single clear purpose became the filter for every decision she made. Should they change the activities? Yes, if it helps a girl reach her potential. Should they recruit more diverse volunteers? Absolutely, because it helps more girls reach their potential. This clarity of purpose turned the entire organization around. Every activity has a bottom line. For a parent, it might be raising a kind, independent adult. For a teacher, it might be sparking a love of learning in a student. Bottom-line thinking provides ultimate clarity. It tells you what's important and what's just noise. It simplifies your decisions and focuses all your energy on what truly matters. When you combine all these skills, when you break free from popular thinking, see the big picture, focus your energy, plan strategically, ground yourself in reality, spark new ideas through creativity and reflection, and multiply your impact through shared and unselfish thinking, all while aiming at your true bottom line, you don't just become a better thinker. You become the master of your own life. You stop being a leaf blown about by the winds of circumstance and become the captain of your own ship, charting a course toward a destination of your own choosing. And that, Maxwell teaches us, is the truest definition of success. Commentary. As we step back and look at the whole landscape of John C. Maxwell's work, what's truly remarkable about how successful people think is its profound simplicity. In a world that often overcomplicates the path to success with convoluted theories and trendy life hacks, Maxwell brings it all back to the one thing we have complete control over: our own minds. The most powerful lesson, for me, isn't found in any single one of the 11 thinking skills, but in the overarching idea that good thinking is a discipline. It's not a talent you're born with, it's a muscle you build. It's a daily, intentional practice. Like an athlete training for the Olympics, a good thinker commits to the process every single day. They carve out time to think, they seek out people who challenge them, and they refuse to settle for lazy, second-hand opinions. This is incredibly empowering, especially when you're young. It means your future isn't dictated by your current circumstances, your GPA, or what other people think of you. It's dictated by your willingness to engage in the hard, rewarding work of thinking well. Another beautiful aspect of this book is how it reframes our understanding of ideas themselves. We often think of great ideas as rare, lightning bolt moments of genius. But Maxwell shows us that they're not. Great ideas are the result of a process. They come from collecting good thoughts, shaping them, stretching them with others, and connecting them to a purpose. Your mind isn't a vault that either has gold in it or it doesn't. It's a mine. And if you're willing to do the work of digging every day, you will consistently find gold. So, how can you start applying this today, right now? Let's make it simple. First, schedule your thinking time. It doesn't have to be 3 days like Dan Cathy. Start with 15 minutes. Find a quiet spot, turn off your phone, and take out a piece of paper. Ask yourself one good question. It could be, what is the most important thing I need to accomplish this week, and what is one small step I can take toward it? Or, what is one thing I learned yesterday, and how can I use it today? Just 15 minutes of focused, uninterrupted thought can bring more clarity than hours of distracted activity. Second, practice shared thinking with one person. The next time you're stuck on a problem, whether it's a school project, a personal decision, or a creative idea, don't just spin your wheels alone. Intentionally call a friend, a family member, or a mentor you respect. Don't ask them for the answer. Instead, say, "I'm thinking about this, and I'd love to hear how you see it." Listen more than you talk. You'll be amazed at how someone else's perspective can unlock a door you didn't even see. Finally, end your day with one reflective question. Before you go to sleep, instead of scrolling through your phone, ask yourself, what was the best thing that happened today, and why? This simple act of reflection trains your brain to look for the positive, to learn from your daily experiences, and to cultivate a sense of gratitude. It turns your days from a blur of events into a series of lessons. These small habits, practiced consistently, are the seeds from which a great thinking life grows. That was a summary of How Successful People Think by John C. Maxwell. We've journeyed through the core principles today, but I'll be honest with you. A summary is like looking at a picture of a magnificent feast. You can see what's on the table, but you can't taste the food. The real nourishment, the real magic, happens when you read the book for yourself. It's in the quiet moments, when a particular story or a simple phrase connects with you in a way you didn't expect. This summary is your map, but the treasure is found on the journey of reading it. If anything we've talked about today has sparked something in you, grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning, it's an experience that can genuinely change the way you see yourself and your world. The link to the book is in the description. Also, if you found this summary valuable, please do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It lets me know that we're on the right track, and it ensures you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep growing together.